Hello everyone and welcome to this recording about the upcoming full moon we have in the sign of Pisces on the 10th of September 2022. Now I'm sharing my screen with you so you can see the chart, but ignore the houses and the clock face because this is set where I live. But the signs and the planets in them, that's what matter at this full moon. First of all, this full moon is taking place at 17 degrees and 41 minutes in the sign of Pisces, and the sun is opposing it, so illuminating it from the same degree from the sign of Virgo. Now, one of the major aspects that the opposition of the sun and moon hold is a square to Mars, a T-square, but it's not a very tight square, because Mars is at 11 degrees and 23 minutes of the sign of Gemini, and there is also a tight, and this is a tight trine, the Sun holds with Uranus, from the sign of Taurus of course. That means a sextile that the Moon will hold with Uranus. Now this energy is quite a saving grace, because the square to Mars with Gemini, this can, let's say, be pretty disturbing in the sense that Gemini is always either the other, another person, and usually quite a very close person to us, a person who can have at least the same position as a twin, as a brother, sister, so either very close friend, a life partner, child, siblings, of course, family members, etc., etc. Or it can be inner forces, our mind. But of course, this really depends on where this 11 degrees of Gemini, Mars in Gemini is in your personal chart, which area of life. So the disturbance, the duality, the conflict perhaps in discussion, in dates, times, anything that can be Gemini-like might come from that area of life. But of course, as I said, the positive energy, the trine to Uranus, the sun's trine to Uranus, and the moon sextile to Uranus is stronger, much tighter, and Uranus can be a very pleasant surprise. Now, Uranus is retrograde, so very many times this means that the element of surprise can come from within, like a epiphany, or, for example, how we react immediately to a situation. Yes, that is Martian energy as well, but Mars is part of this game. The square, the T-square, it holds with the full moon, so yes, that can... Ooh, a wasp is very close to me, so I do apologize if I pause this video if needed, but I do hope it finds its way out. So, the trine with Uranus, that can be an unexpected element coming from you, an idea, an epiphany, a sudden realization, an act of rebellion, a change. Any, maybe action you might be taking outside of your comfort zone. Any reaction, any idea, any approach, any worldview even. Because this Uranus can translate onto so very many things. For example, Uranus is also the internet and technology. What information might reach you synchronistically from the internet, for example. But in the sign of Taurus, this can be support, financial resources, inspiration, ideas, intellectual resources, coming to you in a way of a blessing. Now, sextile with the moon, what do we do with the available resources? Because you can imagine that Virgo energy, the sun in Virgo, if you just look at the sun, trining Uranus, trine by Uranus, this can mean unexpected help, solution, problem solving. Sometimes the solution or the problem is exactly in the details, Virgo energy. And if we get aware, become aware, are guided to awareness one way or another, that is a massive help. For example, we find someone, a specialist, a Virgo, someone who offers the service in any way, shape, and form, which helps us, and we did not expect this, Uranus. And the big picture is this Uranus, what does it want to tell us with the awareness, with the blessing? That there is help in our lives. We just need to have the awareness and the wisdom to know where to look for it. The nodes of the moon, the north node in Taurus, exactly where to look for it. And with the interpretation of this full moon, I would like to include the Sabian symbols, because they speak quite heavily about what we can expect. Because without the Sabian symbols, this full moon in the sign of Pisces, a very emotional energy in itself, mutable energy. Pisces can be quite unstable, wishy-washy. And, another celestial conversation, Mars is sextiled by Jupiter. Mars and Jupiter. Okay, the sextile is not very powerful, but we can amplify everything, including our emotional states. And this is where the sextile to Uranus comes into play. If we use the resources available to us, inner and outer resources, very, very wisely, then we can truly overcome or bypass. But when I say bypass, this isn't necessarily the bad kind of bypassing. So overcome the negativity that could be also part of the game. It can come from outside. You can imagine that this Mars in Gemini, the media, social media, news, everything that happens socially, mouth word gossip, so other people's dramas, and the bad that is going on in the world, the bad kind of awareness. And Mars was considered by the ancients quite a malefic planet, so yes, this can also be the bad kind of information, the bad vibe news, the bad vibe of communication. And Mercury is retrograde already in the sign of Libra. So you can imagine that the bad kind of people are already launching news, gossip, speculation, doom and gloom, which is not necessarily founded in reality. The party poopers, and collectively, of course, there will be the people, but in our lives, everyone has some party poopers in their lives who kind of want to focus on the doom and gloom and the problems and everything that is not okay. But anyway, that will be part of the upcoming Mercury retrograde when it will get into Virgo. But for now on, this Mercury, speaking about the devil, opposes Jupiter. So yeah, exactly. Amplification of the mental energy. Mars in Gemini, amplifying everything that is there, will determine what the outcome is going to be like. But regardless, even if the news is bad, even if it's like always raining outside, so to speak, the emotional, informational weather is doomy and gloomy, not so sunny, so to speak, outside, no problem. This is Uranus. The resources that you have, awareness, inner resources, creativity, fantasy, magic, the occult, faith, prayers, the divine, everything that is ethereal at this moment, at this full moon, is of great help. Moon in Pisces, widely conjunct, so not tightly this Neptune, but still conjunction to Neptune, planet of all of what I said, divine source, and this sextile alchemy. It speaks about a very powerful alchemy. If we use our resources and cheer ourselves up, reach out to a person who we know they can help us, whatever resource there is in life, if we use them wisely, we can truly make this energy our own. And in a few moments, I'll get to the Sabian symbols to understand exactly why it's very important for us to do that. But before, I would still like to include the Sun's opposition to Neptune. So yes, exactly. What is it that we do with the power of faith? Virgo, and this is where for a lot of people, this full moon is going to be about detox. And when I say detox, for some people, yes, physical, cigarettes, alcohol, greens, all that stuff. For other people, more spiritual. Let's stay out of drama, conflicts, bad things, negativity. For other people, more emotional and psychological. Let's self-control the doom and gloom and the depression and the mental illness. For other people, let's not get into conflict at this. Let's free our lives from conflict. No, everyone, whatever they have in their lives that they need to kind of take care of in this kind of sense, managing the energy. Because even if you're not into spiritual, if you know what I mean, well, it still means for you what it means, managing your energy. And you see, there is still a water trine, south node, moon, south node in Scorpio. Knowing yourself, knowing your bad habits, knowing when something is enough, knowing the measure. So, as I talked about substances, there is a certain kind of measure where the substance is useless. If you take if you lick alcohol, so to speak, it's just a fantasy, it's placebo 100% if it does anything to you. If you take a tiny glass full, it's just the right measure. It gets you into a bit of a greater calm and a spirited and a smile. If you go over, well, you can imagine that it's already totally counterproductive. It shuts you down in any way, shape, and form. So the spirit, Neptune, let's say, the measure, the south node, because you need to know your measure. You need to know yourself. So this is where apply everything with great measure on, but also the south node itself speaks about the necessity of the detox. So for example, for some people, detox may represent measure, smaller quantities until it's not necessary. For other people, it's different kind, like for example, in a psychological energy. Let's not get into trouble, but I'm so irritated inside. That means total control, because not, let me just say a couple of angry words and it will not get into fist fight. No, that's, this is where apply this to your situation. But this is a blessing, because the south node equally represents that which you're very good at. Because everyone has a virtue. Everyone has some good kind of scorpionic energies. The truth, regeneration, rebirth, a different kind of self-nurture than Cancer. Everyone has something special, unique, and a power over something. If they invest it very wisely, it's a big help. Okay, so now that we understand kind of what this full moon is about and other aspects taking place simultaneously during at it, so Mercury trining Mars, that's really good because the power of understanding. There might be conflict, challenges, a lot of temptation, the power of temptation. Sun, quincunx Saturn. Okay, you have this determination for detox, purity, solving issues, really doing it this time. Don't let temptations get in the way. For example, mental distractions. This person's problems, that person's problems, and by the end of the day, you don't have time and energy for your problems. So this Saturn in Aquarius sometimes can represent the problems of friends. Okay, but this is where you need measure. Of course I help a friend, but then I really need to do the things for myself. Fixing your car, going to the garage, going to the doctor, going to the dentist, going to the stylist, cleaning your house, cleaning this, cleaning that, spirituality. Any Virgo theme there is included here. Yep, so exactly. There's also help, good inspiration, a good word, So there is help with this trine. Yep, there is also a square between Mars and Venus. Venus being in the sign of Virgo as well. There is not going to be a lot of comfort. There is going to be a discomfort there. Either an emotional disappointment, someone lets you down. We cannot help you today, says the service. But we can help you in 2 days. So, this kind of issues practically. But of course, for a lot of other people, this can be quite emotional. This can be other kind of letdown. I'm so sorry, but this is part of the game, but everything serves ultimately the full moon truth. Because this is also, don't get me wrong, a deeply karmic energy. This speaks volumes about your life, about your past, about family members, and under Mercury retrograde, there can be a lot of communication that comes into your life at this time. And it makes you think, it makes you contemplate. There can be information coming in from the dream world. This is a highly, highly mystical, magical, supernatural full moon. So the dream and inner forces, the inner, the strength of the psyche is very much at play here, so to speak. And Uranus, expect the unexpected. And again, awareness, truth-based, truth about the past, about your inner forces, about a truth deep within your heart that you could not admit even to yourself, a coming out of the closet in any area of life, in any way, shape, and form. Something unexpected that changes a deeper spiritual reflection in your life. Okay. Of course, for artists, psychologists, everyone who is going through really mental health problems and heavy depression and the dark night of the soul, please be aware that this Uranus gives you the choice. There is help out there. There is inspiration. There is spirit in a good way out there. Even within you, there is hope. There is love. There is aspiration, there's fantasy, there's inner magic. So choose that. Choose that every second. If you have to, put sticky notes all over your house with keywords of what love means to you. Look at cat pictures, puppy pictures all day obsessively if you have to, but cheer yourself up. Don't let Neptune drown you. Don't choose the bad things. Don't, because this can be profoundly healing. So give yourself the chance. Use the self, not trying to heal, not to undo yourself. Heal. And this heals your spirit if you choose it, if you allow it, Okay, so I'm gonna stop now. Let's see the mystical part of this. And sorry, if you're an artist, the inspiration, the altered state of consciousness, the connections with other people in your life, or nostalgic moments from the past, even past existences. It will be the memory, the frequency of the memory that will count. This is where time will be dilated. Is there such a thing as past or present or future? Isn't it just one? Fragments of your past self, memories. So this can be quite an intense energy. This can be a truly intense energy going on at this time of this full moon, emotionally, mystically, deeply from the unconscious. There is going to be a lot of projections. Everything that you say, everything that you joke, every gesture is gonna be at this time a projection of something. Also, the Freudian projection moments, they're gonna speak volumes about what's really going on inside of you. And some truths, some coming out of the closet moments are gonna be exact by this projection. Mars square the sun in Virgo, and this moon in the sign of Pisces, and also trine Mercury. It slips out. The joke, the gesture, the truth comes out. somehow by mistake, by coincidence. But it doesn't lead to bad things. It leads to acceptance, forgiveness, relief. There is this can be the good kind of energy. The secret comes out, but it falls off your heart. Libra, Mercury in the sign of Libra, the purification of the heart. Your heart has to be as light as a feather for things to go good in your life. So something about you needs to come out, or you need to accept something about another close person. Something like that might be the case for a lot of people. Now there is a destructive element of water here as well. You know, the sun opposing Neptune, drowning energy, floods, tsunami, hurricane, maybe in some parts of the world, a very, very active wind. This is where rain and flooding can uncover artifacts, very valuable artifacts. South Node trine. Sorry, I'm so sorry, the wasp. Go away. So in some part of the world, it can just wash out artifacts from the earth, and it can tell us different stories than we expected. So there is going to be a lot of archaeological discoveries. As I said, this full moon has a lot of healing potential. So ancestral healing, cultures which were enemies joining together for a greater purpose, humanitarian acts perhaps. But diplomatically, what's on the world stage, I very much doubt, because this is Mercury retrograde, lies, deception, what was true, what was not true. They say something and they act the opposite, and I'm not even going to get into that side of the energy, because it's really pointless, isn't it? So, what else would I want to say? So, yeah, the Sabian symbol. Oh, and, you know, Uranus can also reverse polarity. So, in some parts of the world where there was heavy, heavy drought, now there can be like a massive rainfall and like flooding or water damage. So, yes, and in other parts of the world, unfortunately, the opposite. If you know that sometimes you're at risk of water shortages, water cutouts, pipe incidents, accidents even, then maybe you should have an extra bottle of water, clean water with you. Because South Node in Scorpio, pollutant, maybe. Okay, no, for real, I'm so sorry. Let's get to the Sabian symbols. So, let's first of all look at the Sabian symbol of 18 degrees of Pisces, because the full moon is taking place at 17 degrees and 41 minutes. So, the Sabian symbol speaks about a tent where someone performs a spiritual act, or a rather magical faith-based act. Now the Sabian symbol tells us the power of faith and the power of spirituality, the power of wisdom, spiritual wisdom, the power over psychological knowledge, the power of modern psychologists, psychiatrists, doctors in those who study the soul, basically, any arts, even parapsychologists, those Jungian astrologers, the psychology astrologers, really, all of these people, anyone who kind of studies this domain is included in this energy. This is where a lot can be done. But just knowing this, just having this gift ultimately, even if you went to uni and worked hard, that's also a gift. Because how many people can work hard and not be where you are, knowledge-wise, opening-wise, understanding-wise? So listen to this. You kind of need to do something with it. As in, first I'm going to tell you the Sabian symbol, and then another example that just came into my mind. Like sometimes we all need to perform to show the world what we can do. If you're a healer, if you have knowledge, if you have any kind of expertise in these Piscean realms and Scorpionic realms, the South Node in Scorpio, sometimes around this full moon, for example, fate can call you to give the service unconditionally to souls who need it, people who need it. So you need to perform. You need to show the world that your trait, your art, your power is very, very helpful. Because showing the world means showing it to the divine. And yes, sometimes the divine is simply a spectator, one energy amongst all the people who we serve out there, and we don't know in which person the divine took root, took seat to witness our working. For example, and this full moon is, for some people, I can actually intuit that this is exactly how it's going to play out. One client, one person that you're helping, someone who you're serving out of sheer willingness to help. You don't know who they are, in the sense that you don't know what they'll do when they want to thank you for what you're doing right now. Maybe there's a VIP, maybe someone's a star, maybe someone's highly influential, maybe someone's super spiritually gifted, or maybe someone's, for example, a grandmaster at a big spiritual art, fallen out of exhaustion, and you don't know anything about this, and you just help unconditionally, and this, for example, in October gets back into your life as a surprise moment. So, but this can be true in any way, shape and form. We don't know who the person asking for help is. It can very well be the divine taking seat in that person. You know, that song, If God Was One of Us. Now, the other example that got, into my awareness, there is this example in the Bible where either the divine, the God itself, or the Christ gave some coins to 3 servants. And one servant went and invested it and then made something with it. So he multiplied what he was given 10 times. The other servant went and just duplicated it. Invested it, but only doubled it, and then it was enough for him. The third servant buried it in the ground. Then the master came home, who gave them because now I remembered, it was Christ who told the example, but a master gave money to their servants because he was going away for a prolonged period of time, and this is what the servants did. And then when the master came home, the servants appeared before him, and the first servant said, "Look, Lord, you gave me this much, here's what I made, thank you." And the master said, "Oh my goodness, well done. Take all the money. You've done your part. I'm including you in my family," or something equivalent of this. The second servant said, "Lord, you've given me this, and now I duplicated it. I have double. Here it is." Said, "Okay, well done. Thank you very much." And the third dug it up from the ground. "Here it is. I just kept it safe." And the master said, "Well, aren't you a little bit greedy? So that's all you did? You kept it safe. You didn't think about other people and the good that you could have done with it. That's all you did? You just sat on it." So he was punished or cast out or something like that. So if the divine gives us knowledge, helps us get knowledge, a gift, a talent, certain times it is our duty towards the spirit of the gift or the talent or the domain or the profession. Yes, the spirit of the profession, for us to do something with it. Okay, some people cannot afford simply to do it 24/7. But at the time of a great calling, they have to. And that great calling, when Uranus is squaring Mars again, when Uranus is squaring Saturn, that's what happened again, and now, as in now, it's getting stronger, that can be very well such a time. Uranus asking you, look, you have this gift, do something with it. Don't be shy, don't be covered, don't be this, that. All the excuses that you bring to the table, Why you cannot do it? Saturn is the sign of Aquarius. Uranus says, okay, but in this day and age right now, you kind of have to put those aside and just do it. Okay, so this might be such a activating full moon. So the performance itself, faith, talent, skill, knowledge, possessing it is absolutely wonderful, but we also need to perform it. You know, we cannot get it right all the time, but we are not supposed to. But we can get it right a lot of times, and that's what matters. Trying is what matters. The performer, you know, spirituality, the way it is delivered to people, the way it is eaten, processed, you know what I mean. The nutrients of it, because the nutrients of the soul, sometimes, yes, it's under the sigil of performance because it needs to be convincing. It's the Maya that is in everything, including the spirit is Maya, the illusion. So yes, a little tiny part of it is performance. Like look at the church and the rituals and the censer or incense or the smokes and the chants and this has displays, that plays icons. That's the show, and it's necessary, it's beautiful, it's part of it, it's part of the game, it has to be. That's Saturn ultimately, you know, in spirituality. Pisces will go into Saturn very soon in 2023. Saturn will go into Pisces very soon in 2023, so we'll get a lot of what for us to understand the necessity of ritual, symbol, certain spiritual strictness. So yeah, but this full moon can very well prepare us for that. Why not? Because the sun holds a quincunx with Saturn, so it's a preparation energy. It shows us what this Saturn is gonna do when it's here with Neptune in the same sign. So now let's look at the sun. What illuminates, what charges this full moon? So the 10th, we get it, the performance, but what are we performing? Who is performing? What is the Virgo, the modus operandi? And this 18 degrees of Virgo says about a Ouija board. And I find this so fascinating. Virgo, Mercury, speaking, communication, Ouija board, the occult. Full moon, the performance, the power of the occult. Now, why is this extremely and extraordinarily important? Because a Ouija board can speak, as in can be animated to speak by your own unconscious, which contains your desires, which contains the shadow, which contains the inner demons, and at the same time, if you do it mindlessly, then even the real thing. But it can, in the hands of a master, in the hands of someone who truly practiced, it can be a valid tool to communication with the other side. And this full moon, the performance, so something definitely is going to speak to us, reflect back at us, and we will need to know what is the benevolent side of the spirit, the divine working in our lives, and what is the shadow, our vain desires. And at the same time, the Ouija board. Let's not look at the Ouija board, let's look at what it wants to show us, an oracle divination, the oracle, the words of an oracle, the words of an astrologer, the words of a tarot reader, the words of a parapsychologist, your own words under the influence of a hypnosis, a trance, etc., can bear a lot of wisdom and prophecy and your own deep knowledge, and it can very well bear your illusions and your insanity. This Gemini, what is it bearing? And this 11 degrees of Gemini, I didn't note it down, but I do believe I remember it from looking it up. So 12 degrees of Gemini, the Sabian symbol, is a lady defending her rights, a colored lady defending her rights in public. So you can imagine the speech, defending herself by speech, with you know, an eccentric way of defending her rights. So this is very, very symbolic, because we need to be very, very discerning of what part of the spirit sends us what. Because there is a lot of illusion and a not so favorable part of the spirit. So alcohol and certain substances, well, that's openness to the spirit world, but to a certain part of it. So, you know, not necessarily the kind of spirit which would advise you towards your greater good, but rather the opposite. So, Virgo, the purity that we need to invest deeply into our lives. In what are you doing in your life for purity? Every spiritualist does different things. Some people, the yoga, that's a sacrifice. You quiet your mind, or you do something. You dedicate a segment of your life just to be with the divine, your higher self, whatever it is that you call that. That's already a sacrifice. Other people do not opt for that. And when I say opt, sometimes it's your sole option and you don't even know it. You would like to get into yoga, but simply life does not permit you ever. That means your soul is not interested in that. So other people do detoxes and diets and physical exercise. Other people spend as much time in nature, and that also means they clean nature, they help nature, they inspire other. That's already a service, that's already a sacrifice. Other people are more religious, other people opted this as a career profession, so they serve, for example, in a humanitarian way, they serve for free. When you serve for free, even if that's just 20% of what you're doing your work, the serve for free or facilitate other people to heal themselves by giving free courses, free something, that's a service, that's a sacrifice. That's where you compensate you not having time to do yoga, this ceremony, go to church. You compensate. Or you compensate having a rich, active sex life, for example, with that other type of sacrifice. Because if you have a very happy, healthy, wonderful sex life, you can imagine then that's like the material self. That's like your ego is fed by your partner perfectly. So that's a blessing. You kind of need to show gratitude for that blessing by sacrificing in another area of life which has perhaps nothing to do with this. But you give the happiness energy you get from your partner into your work, into you inspiring people, into whatever. Babysitting animals, cats, dogs, anything that you do. You can imagine that everyone manages energy. So sharing your blessing, or finding your unique way to share your blessing. So, yes. And then we kind of have to look at the node. The south node, the 15 degrees of Scorpio, says children playing with 5 mounds of sand. Now I find this so fascinating, because what does this immediately suggest? Creativity, ingenuity, playfulness, playing with imagination, playing with past, present, future, internally, this kind of creativity. And at the other side of the spectrum, playing with past, present, and future in a totally different way, where you just kind of shift your state and include the wisdom that you get from it into your work, like an inspiration. If you're an artist, if you're a teacher, if you work with people, How you can, for example, how you dress, your makeup. That's already inspirational. So if you play with creativity in any way, shape, and form, who knows where you get? Because the 5 mounds of sand speak about number 5 in numerology. Overcoming your boundaries by a crisis, or overcoming your boundaries by an internal creative turmoil, as in getting lost in a fantasy so deeply where when you arise to the surface, you're a bit smarter, wiser than before. Or using, if you look at the fives in tarot, the high priest, how relevant, how Taurian, playing with your deep faith, playing with the high priest can be a symbol of something that is deeply, deeply, deeply rooted inside of us, where we are masters of that, regardless of what that is. We have great experience of that. So we can deep into a lot of wisdom and knowledge and the experience of others to help our own, to transform everything that we want by faith. Then let's say 5 of air. Our own mental sabotages and how we overcame them can help us advise another person going through the same thing. Our own blockages in, for example, HR, legislation, communication, getting around the problem. That's all 5 of swords. How we overcome the problem, this is where we can give a valid advice to another person, a friend, a neighbor, anyone going through the same thing, being as lost as we once were. 5 of coins, health problems, health issues, scarcity, poverty, not being able to see the light at the end of the tunnel, how to get an income, for example, or low self-worth ruining your love life. All of this can be 5 of coins. How do you get around that issue? How did another person get around that issue? Inspire yourself from the stories and the life stories of others, because the solution that awaits you maybe did not avoid another person out there. Listen to life stories of others. Not necessarily the pumped up books with fantasy. The word, the mouth word, an elder, a person, a real person. Look, dude, do that. How did you overcome your crisis? Tell me, because I'm in the same turmoil. And the dude do that will tell you, I did this, that, I lived this, that. And even if it's not a match to yours, your wisdom grows insanely much. 5 of cups, disappointment. Disappointment is alchemical copper. It tells so much about you. Your own disappointment is the best mirror about who it is that you are. Your expectations, your darkness, and also your dark side. Look back at your deepest disappointments. Ask yourself why it hurt so much. And the story of what happened to you will unfold in your deepest traumas. But also, in classic tarot, 5 of cups usually has 2 cups full. Take with you the full cups. Walk away from disappointment, but take the full cups. Because you also had moments when you were not disappointed, when you lived the illusion, when you lived the fantasy. The good moments when you were living the fantasy, those also matter a lot, because they're also full of wisdom, telling you how you are at your best version. 5 of wands, the conflict, the war, the challenge, the competition, not having it easy. Let me give you my personal lived experience. I am so grateful to the divine that I did not have it easy at school. That my mom was a very strict parent. I am so infinitely grateful for the discipline I was taught. I was forced to compete. But without this, I would have been lost in so very many situations in life. The spirit of competition has to be kept alive, and unfortunately, sometimes in life, the weak may not participate in situations that will break them, and it's not fair to for someone else to keep a shoulder for them, because the divine arranges every soul in their own specific frequency. One a person that is not matched to a strength frequency in something should not be part of it. This is also divine rule. Anyway, who cares about the divine rule in this day and age? So yes, this full moon can be highly magical, can be highly mysterious. It can tell you so much about yourself, a lot, about your own past, your psyche, a lot of forgiveness, a lot of acceptance, a lot of, rebelling against your own darkness, your own shadow, against your own inner demons, keeping you in chains, rebelling against freeing yourself from the depression, from the hurt, from the pain, forgiving people, not expecting anyone or anything to heal you, help you, finding that Christ-like energy within yourself, you being enough for yourself. And whenever it is that you find yourself worthy of this, you will reach out to others, you will reach out to help, you will accept help, and others will love you. This is how you embrace greater love in your life. So this Piscean full moon can be very, very healing. But as I said, expect water and expect some tears out in the world stage. And a lot of supernatural energy, occult, paranormal, a lot of spirit, ghost, or even poltergeist maybe kind of activity playing out there. But if you're a hunter of these experiences, then you'll have a lot out there. Needless to say, whenever the stars, the sun, the light of the consciousness, and whatever is the light that you will see physically when you look up in the sky at the moon, the light of that full moon is a 18 degrees Ouija board kind of light. So the occult, that light of the full moon animates spirits, the past, empathic echoes, haunted places, haunted forests will be animated by your own belief in them. But if you want to see it manifest, go and do it. It's your belief, don't get me wrong, but it does the trick. It animates your belief, your curiosity, your willingness to experience gives, in a literal way, electromagnetic charge from your heart, excitedness, adrenaline, pumping your heart, electromagnetic energy, needless to say your brain, setting the frequencies, to the entities dormant there. You give pure power. The food that you ate that day and the day before, the energy of it coursing through your nerves, you give it to an entity which is really a memory, which is not real. That's just a memory. But once you fed it, of course it becomes real, and it can do tricks and stuff. Make it angry. Well, this is how horror stories are born. But let's look at the positive side. Healing, forgiveness, ancestors being with you, the good stuff, and the cleansing effect of this Pisces full moon, washing away, dissolving the hurt, and getting it out. So, yeah. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for all the love, all the support, all the kindness, all the generosity. Thank you so much for keeping me and my cat alive. And until next time, I'm wishing everyone a magical, miraculous, profoundly healing, may the Holy Spirit envelop you kind of full moon.